In Western India, most of the caves are located around the hills, or there's one single group of cave, that's Idalpura, which is in a valley, so that's also unique. But otherwise, most of the caves are on the hills, like I was talking about Sinhachal ranges, Satmala ranges. These are parts of Sahyadri ranges. This one single group of cave, which you see in Elephanta, which is on an island, that you have to ferry there and go and see those caves. Where the environment is very beautiful, where you have a forest area which is covered with the entire forest area, like trees like tamarind trees, and mango trees are there. And in that kind of environment where you're going by boat through the waters and then reaching there. So it is a different experience altogether. The craftsmen who came there, they had to be ferried in and out. Like morning they would start talking because in other caves they always start in the morning and complete it in the evening. By evening again, they have to get out all those caves because in those days, like maybe 5th century AD, maybe 6th century AD or 2nd century BC, they didn't have anything inside the island. Like food and all was not available inside the island. So they had to come back to the city, get the food, again go in the morning. So that was definitely a challenge, getting all the food and taking all the eating material there. Carving there was something which was easy, and this was also a part of the Sahyadri ranges, which you have the basalt rock or the trap rock. And the trap rock is very easy to carve because it's one of the hardest rock, and it's called as a trap rock because it has those. It's a horizontal based rock where you have those staircase. It's trap actually means staircase, and you have those rocks which are one upon another, and they're very hard. So carving is very easy on that, and that's why probably the entire western ranges were used for carving because all the western ranges have the trap rock or the basalt rock, and probably Elephanta, where they have the carving, was probably one of the best rock where they carved. Because if you see the sculptures, the kind of depth and the recesses that they have carved in, because it's three-dimensional. They have carved, if you see, it's free from all the three sides except from the back side. And they have been able to carve some of the best sculptures. And they're very tall. The kind of height that you see at Elephanta, the same height you will not see at Ellora. Ellora also does have height, but not this height. Because if you see the Maheshvara panel, it is 18 feet high, which is gigantic. So that kind of panels that have been carved, that is also something very unique. So in all holistic way also you can call the Elephanta some of the most unique sculptures of the entire western ranges. Actually, when the Portuguese came here, they found a rock edict where there was carvings, there was inscriptions, and in very clear letters the inscriptions were written. Probably it must have been something about Elephanta because they were found very close to the rock temples. But unfortunately, what they did was they wanted to decipher the inscriptions, so they took it out from the island, and they thought that they would ask some Britishers to decipher it. Now, at that time, the first deciphering of these inscriptions was somewhere by principles 1857 or something. So you imagine at that 1857, this was in 1661 when the Portuguese had come. So there is a time gap of maybe 200 or 150 or 200 years where you can see that they deciphered after 200 years. So at that time there was nobody to decipher or identify these inscriptions, and that's why they couldn't find it. Where they placed it after that, they're simply lost. And because they are lost, nobody is able to find out what exactly. So all what scholars today are talking about is simply assumption. Like somebody has given it the date of Mauryas. Why could they suggest this? It was carved during the time of Mauryas. So it is like 2nd century AD. Mauryas generally came in the 2nd century BC to 3rd century AD. So if you are talking about Mauryas, then it will be very early. Maybe the stupas, you can point out the stupas, but not the Hindu caves. Hindu caves were never carved so early. You can talk about in 6th, 7th century AD or 7th century AD or 8th. Now we have scholars like Stella Crandrish, then Benjamin Rowland, then James Burgess, James Ferguson, who have talked a lot about these dating. But then they have not been able to justify. It was Vayar Gupte. He was the first person who tried to justify it. He claimed that it was the Mauryas. Then there was V.V. Mirashi, who was another person who tried to justify it, and he has written a beautiful article on what exactly is it. He agrees with Vayar Gupte, but then he says it's not excavated by Mauryas, but by the Kalachuris. Now, Kalachuris, and then he tries to justify why it is Kalachuris because the coins were found there, etc. etc. Walter Spink also claims that it was the Kalachuris. Then Chobna Gokhale has written an article on why the Kalachuris are supposed to have carved these caves. Again, the same evidence, and again the same assumption that because the coins have been found here. Now it was Dr. R.S. Gupte who later on came, and he said he has written a long article on why it is not carved by the Kalachuris or by the Mauryas, but it is carved by the Chalukyas. And why it is carved by the Chalukyas? Because he said the Chalukyas actually were the ones who worship Saptamatrikas, they worship Kartikeya, they worship Ganesha, and all those sculptures you find there. Again, they also talked about the Mani Yajno Pavita, which I wrote about Mani Yajno Pavita and Pushpa Yajno Pavita. The Mani Yajno Pavita was generally used by the Chalukyas, not by the Kalachuris. And Chalukyas had a lot of resources, like funding wise, if you're talking, they were more richer than the Kalachuris. And they could afford that because they have done it in Ellora also, where you find a lot of caves which have been given to, which are supposed to be of their dynasty. Again, caves in Aurangabad caves, that is also during the time of Chalukyas. So Chalukyas have that precedent. And a lot of similarity you find between Ellora and between Elephanta. I mean, the same kind of sculptures, the same panels, the same Saptamatrikas, the same Kartikeya. And there is one more symbol, that is Kirti Mukha. Kirti Mukha also is a symbol which has been used by the Chalukyas. So, R.S. Gupte has justified all this, that because all these symbols were used by the Chalukyas, again, they were the worshippers of Saptamatrikas, and considering all this, again, the resources were very strong. So they were able to provide all the resources also. So considering this background, he was, I suppose he is more justified in thinking that it was the Chalukyas. Maybe more research is required to go into all the details of what Walter Spink is talking about, what Chobna Gokhale is talking about, or what Mirashi is talking about, and then bring it together. And then maybe if a little more research is done, you can come to some final conclusion where all the scholars are able to finally agree, because there is no agreement even to this day. Yeah, the Buddhist came because they have found some archaeological evidences on the basis that probably it was during the period of Mauryas. Mauryas is a very early period. If you because Mauryas, wherever Mauryas are there, you have the Brahmi script. Here they have not found any script as such. But all the same, if you take the architecture of these caves, the typical, rafters, stone rafters. Here you find the stone rafters, the stupa, which is very similar to Ajanta and Aurangabad cave, where the rafters are also there. Even at Ellora you have them. So it can be anywhere between 2nd century BC and 2nd century AD. But it looks more refined. So it can be more towards the later period, that is the 2nd century AD. It will be under the Mauryas, probably under the Mauryas. But then you need to find more archaeological evidence, and then more excavations need to be conducted there to find the archaeological remains. They need to conduct archaeological surveys because it's under the charge of ASI. And the problem with ASI also is that there are Elephanta is not simply under one particular body. It's under the forest department also. It's under the urban utility department also, and the town planning also. So there are a number of other bodies without whose permission they cannot proceed. And unless there is a proper coordination between all these bodies, and they decide that all of us together will decide that this particular area could be excavated and they could find a lot of remains. There is, like, for example, there is a lot of brickwork. It looks like a stupa, And if you try to find out what is around it, maybe they find out a lot, because wherever they are this kind of brickwork, archaeological remains are always there. You know, like in Ter also, there were this kind of brickworks, and Mokardan also, they are all old ancient cities. So on that basis, if they try to work around this particular brickwork, stupa, which looks like a stupa, maybe they will find a lot of archaeological remains. Maheshvara is something which is one of the most unique sculptures, where you don't find this kind of a sculpture anywhere in the world. You know, it's so alive, so energetic, so dynamic, and so vigorous. If you see the only face, I mean, it is only the bust, which is 18 feet high, and if you see the expression on the faces, like it symbolizes all the three: creation also, protection also, destruction also, and the same creation part of it, feminine part of it. So it is typically feminine. The center is protective, very peaceful, so protection. And this side is agora, you know, very angry, and all those jatas and snakes and all that. I mean, this kind of creative force that you find in this figure, you will not find anywhere else in the world. You know, this kind of expression that has been created by the creators of this figure, they have put so much life force into that to this day, in the 21st century also, if anybody challenges that I can create that figure, maybe he will not be able to create that figure. Kalyanasundaramurti is one of the most beautiful. Unfortunately, the Portuguese, what they have done is that they have used all these panels as a target, you know, to practice their firing, and they have created so many holes in it and destroyed hands and shoulders and all, unfortunately. But otherwise, if you see the Kalyanasundaramurti, where you know, Shiva and Parvati are getting married after a long time, after the second, this is supposed to be the second rebirth of Parvati. She's born as Parvati to Himavan and Menaka, and then she wants to marry Shiva, and he's in the yoga, yogic posture. Then she prays and meditates. Finally, Kamadeva, you know, hits him with the arrow of love, and then he wakes up and he sees Parvati, falls in love with her, and then they get married. When she first touches Shiva's hand, she feels so shy. You know, she's literally blushing. I mean, you can feel that she's blushing, and you feel that they are actually getting married. And Brahma is supposed to be the priest. He is conducting the entire rituals, rites and rituals. So you actually feel that you are watching the marriage. Ardhanarishvara figure is also very beautiful. Ardhanarishvara, where the two get together, that is Shiva and Parvati. Actually, it is Bringi who is not worshipping Parvati, but only Shiva. And Parvati gets very irritated, and she prays and meditates and becomes one with her Lord. And once she becomes one with her Lord, she says that he will have to worship me. But he refuses. He only circumambulates around Shiva. But of course, there are different theories. That one theory is that Brahma created Prajapatis, and then he expected to start creation. But that was only a male creation. So only one male cannot start creation. Then Shiva went in the form of Shiva and Parvati. That is, for any kind of creation, a male and a female both are required together. Only two people together can create. So then Brahma understood that it was only when female and male get together, only creation can start. Then he created a female also. This is another theory. Elephanta actually needs to be studied more in more novel ways, you know, instead of very conservative ways. Like when we are studying Elephanta, like the preservation of Elephanta, what kind of preservative steps need to be taken. Like, because you know, Elephanta is located, caves are located in amidst the Arabian Sea. You have the salinity, the salas, which affects the caves, and that affects very badly. Again, the monsoons, which are very high, and climatic conditions, because monsoons actually, because of that, there is a lot of water seepage inside, and this kind of preservation, what kind of preservation steps can be taken, what can be done, whether chemicals can be applied, or whether it can be cement entire on the top of the roof, entire cement covering can be made. What steps can be made? Or you can make a drainage type where the water will just pass off, instead of waterlogging or gathering in one place. So a lot of methods need to be decided by ASI also, tourism also, and if many tourists come inside, what are the impacts inside the cave? So all these studies, taking a holistic view of the entire surroundings and people, because industries are also coming up, and how you can prevent industries from coming there. So this kind of a study can also be conducted. Like Ajanta and Ellora, more Ajanta. I think people have focused more on Ajanta and less on Ellora also, and less on Elephanta also. So they need to gradually deviate from Ajanta, because there are so many authors scholars on Ajanta who have worked on that. They need to deviate, come more to Ellora, because Ellora is also still an untapped area. Elephanta is more untapped than Ellora. So if they start moving scholars, young students, start moving even from Bombay University, they go and start working more on Elephanta, take new topics, not the conservative and early conventional topics, and get away from the conventional topics. Maybe you will find that it is one of the most interesting areas of research. ASI has many rules now. They don't allow photographs. They allow research. No research can be conducted without photographs. Unless you have photographs. For photographs also, like the cameras. Some of the cameras are different, like very, very powerful cameras you use. They say that the rays affect the sculptures. But the sculptures have already been affected so badly that I don't see there will be much impact with cameras. But now cameras are not allowed inside. And you have, for any kind of photography, for research, you have to take the permission of ASI. Now it is not that Bombay ASI can give you permission. They have to seek permission from Delhi. Most of the permissions are rejected. I am sad to say this, that permission to foreigners are given, but why not Indian scholars and researchers who are more sincere and for whom this place is more accessible than to the foreigner who comes once in a while, they'll go every day, work for 1 month. Foreigners have more finance, more resources. So I think Indian scholars also need to be given more resources, more encouragement, more financial aid, so that they can do better work than others can.